Welcome to Game Within a Game podcast, featuring former pro basketball player, trainer, and coach, Marquis Navarre. The podcast that talks all things basketball, but also that game played by us all, that game called life. See, being great at this game ain't easy. It takes parents, coaches, mentors, guidance to navigate the ups and downs. On Game Within a Game, Marquis speaks to the athlete, the student, the player, the parent, the trainer, and fans alike. From connections to making connections, stories and more. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify and Instagram, and of course, comment, like, share. Game Within a Game podcast. Game Within a Game podcast. With the one and only Marquis Navarre. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks again for tuning in to Game Within a Game podcast. And today we got a special guest on episode 14. Angus Olay from Sydney, Australia. Sophomore at Marshalltown Community College. Played and won championship for top high school program basketball in NSW. Second all-conference this season at Marshalltown. We're going to get into it, talking about coming up in Australian junior system versus America, and so much more. They got stories, they got memories, they got the connection. Game Within a Game podcast. What's up, Angus? Hope all is good with you.
Yeah, it's going great. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Let's get right into it and open it up with you guys talking about just coming up in the Australian junior system, how it differs from your American teammates, and even more, like, I know a lot of people in other countries, they have a view of America, they have a view of American people, etc. Did that idea or view give you an edge or kind of have you kind of be hesitant in terms of how you were going to approach the American system and how you compared both the Australian junior system and American ball? I know that was a loaded question.
Well, to answer the end bit of your question, when coming to America to play, honestly, I was more on the hesitant side. You hear all these, stipulations and there's all these stigmas associated with American basketball. And to be honest, I wasn't really in the right mindset. I was honestly a little bit intimidated coming into my freshman year. I was, you see all these great players in college, and for me, going into JUCO was really uncharted territory. Like, I had no really idea of the JUCO system, what goes on. And my first ever runs at my school, I got, kicked around a bit. One guy who was my position hit 8 threes in a row on my head to start off JUCO. And I was like, wow, is this really what it's like here? Like, am I just going to get, kicked around for 2 years? So that alone, I just started off, honestly hesitant just through first run experience. It wasn't really, it wasn't the whole experience. It was a bit of a wake up call, but just seeing the type of athletes, even at the JUCO level, was quite astonishing, to be honest. When looking at the Australian versus, US, I definitely think one thing that I can say is the US is definitely a lot more skilled. Like, regardless of where you are in the States, the kids and the teenagers growing up, they are so much more skilled than Australians. Obviously, there's outliers and people in Australia who can hoop and go, but the US, the skill level is much higher. Average skill level, 100%. I'd say Australia and Europe are more focused on the team game, so like having lots of structure, and I can definitely say that's one thing that helped me prepare for college and playing in high school. as well. I was blessed to have a really, really good coach in high school, Rex Nottage, and even through the club system in Australia, blessed with Will Hill, Jacob Jacomas, and I had a fantastic assistant coach one year when I was playing under 16s named Marquis Navarre. He was great, really helped with the skill development. So that's how I managed to meet Keith. But yeah, honestly, the structure and I was blessed with great coaches helped me prepare 100%. That's one thing that gave me an edge on a lot of the Americans. At the JUCO level, especially, they're not necessarily, they got the game, they got the skill, but the mind game and like the IQ when they're remembering sets is sometimes a bit of a struggle for some of them. But yeah, it's definitely just a bit interesting, just the whole base comparison there.
Mm. Yeah, like you said, I think we met. That was you were under 16, right? Bottom age under 16s for
age,
for the Sydney Comets, and yeah, for the audience that doesn't know, like again, the Sydney Comets are one of the probably the better, one of the top club teams in Sydney, Australia, and you know the junior system there. You know, as you said, Angus, like in America, when we start developing players, we really start focusing on the individual player skill set, you know, from ball handling, you know, shooting, finishing around the rim, like the individual skills. Where in Australia, like you said, it's a team. Like we focus more on the team and how to play team basketball and how to play off the ball more specifically, because there's only going to be one guy with the ball in their hands at once. So focusing on a lot of the fundamentals off the ball. And as you said, like, I think that does give a lot of international players an advantage once they come over here, because, you know, the skill set is one thing, but at the end of the day, you know, you want players who have a high basketball IQ and know how to play with others. And I think that's something that, you know, like you say, you've done well, and I've seen a lot of other Australian players have a lot of success doing that. But I just want you just to dive back into that initial, like, growing up in Australia, like I said, the comparison to what American players are like. And as you said, like being intimidated a little bit by just the stories that you hear. And how did you, what was it that made you different, that really like made you decide, you know, I do want to go take on that challenge, even though it is kind of intimidating?
So definitely growing up in Australia in compared to the US, it was like one thing that's always intrigued me with the Americans is, you know, some of their life stories. Like a lot of the guys I play with, you know, haven't had it the best, especially in JUCO. Like a lot of them, for them, this is their way out. And it is a way to, you know, feed their families at the end of the day. Like they're trying to do this, it's bigger than themselves, a lot of these guys. And when they have that passion and that fire, and, you know, it shows both in the good and the bad ways. Like you understand it. Me growing up in Australia, I was pretty lucky to have it off. You know, good family, good friends, good schooling, got a good education. I've really been blessed and lucky to have those things. And coming to the US, hearing those stories and, you know, what some of these guys have been through, it like shakes you up a bit. Like, you know, diving deep and having, you know, deep and meaningful conversations with some of them and hearing the stories, it really opens you up and wakes you up to, you know, what the world is really like. And to touch on the what gave me the drive and what made me want to, you know, fight, I guess it was seeing glimpses of what I can do on the court. Like, you know, there'll be times where I didn't come over the best conditioned, got in a bit better shape. I saw what I was doing in spurts and I was like, oh, all right, you know, I can go with these guys. Or even dominate. And once I saw a little glimpse of, I can actually go here, I just knew I wanted to continue it. I was getting a bit frustrated with minutes my freshman year. And then, when I was getting on the court, I wanted to show my coaches that I deserve more. And even that was kind of a wake-up call. Like, I want to be here. I want to fight. Like, it's really it's both a mental and physical struggle. Like, I respect any JUCO athlete. Like, JUCO is not for the weak. And there's a reason everyone goes on about saying, JUCO product, because JUCO makes you. You see, like, for my team this year, we started off with 19 players. At the end of the season, we finished with 8 because of suspensions.
Yeah.
The year before, we started off with 21, finished with 12, because of people quitting, suspensions, like everything like that. So, like, it is a fight. You do have to fight, and you do have to earn every single minute. Like, playing in practice, being in class, getting good grades, like having a good attitude, not throwing a ball at a coach's head, because that can happen from time to time. It's a struggle, and it's a fight. And I saw, as soon as some people were quitting my freshman year and giving up, that was also fueling the fire a bit more. It's like, you're quitting, you can't do this. That makes me want to do it more. It's like seeing other people quit, sort of, I don't know, it fueled me a bit. It's like, I can do this, and I'm strong. I can stay here. I can work hard, get better. And sort of what happened. Sophomore year was a lot different, but yeah.
Yeah, you talk about that, like you said, the difference of the lifestyles. Like, in Australia, basketball is it's something that you do. And like in America, like, basketball is who you are. Like, once you pick up the basketball, this is who you are. And for me, it was good to, like, growing up in America and going to Australia, it kind of helped me kind of get a basketball life balance, like, slowly but surely. But when I first got there, I was struggling. I was like, what's wrong with these people? Like, why aren't they in the gym nonstop? But, but then there was those outliers that you did connect with, or you did see people like had that same type of drive, and type of like dedication for the game. But overall, like you said, the lifestyle there, there's a difference between what I experienced as far as coaching in Australia and playing in Australia than growing up in America. And for you to be kind of like attracted still to that competitiveness, to that kind of like dog, it's a dog world, especially to like play at the junior college level. Where do you think that you learned some of that character? As you said, like, you did play for, Coach Will Hill, who, he's from America. And like I said, he's one of the best coaches I've seen and I've been around, as well as Coach Rex. Coach Rex, knowledge, like, we kind of joke, like, he's kind of the Greg Popovich of, Australian basketball. And he's just, he runs a program that is just really well disciplined. Like, what they're going to run, but you don't know what they're going to run, because you can't stop it, because they're just so disciplined. And as you said, like, Jacob Jacomis, like, he was just coaching the Illawarra Hawks, so pro coaches. And talk about, like, how, like, just some of the things that you learned from those coaches that allowed you to really come over here and be successful.
Well, the first coach I had out of all of them was Coach Nottage. So I started playing varsity with him at the end of 8th grade. And one thing I learned from him is patience and know your role. So I was, as for 8th grade in varsity, you're not going to get much playing time. But through the years playing with him, he developed me in a way, and he showed me that there's structure and order into development, and there's a way to earn your role, and how to, if you consistency can get you, more opportunities, more minutes. And he taught me that to begin with. He also showed me that you don't need the ball in your hands to contribute to winning. When I was playing that 9th, 10th grade, I had a bit more of the ball in my hands, but he was more focused on me, grabbing boards, setting hard screens, guarding guys down low in the post, or, having good ball coverage. It's just, he showed me that things off the ball matter, as well as like he developed me. I contribute him for most of my development as a basketball player, and also for my mindset and IQ. Used to, sometimes at lunch, if I had nowhere to really go, like, or any, like, friends to see, I just go into his office and watch film or break down things, just to see, to unpick his mind, and see what he sees. Because he's a, former NCAA Division I assistant, and he even worked with the Pacers during the 90s and 80s. So that's something I just wanted to see, what he had. With Will, he was that coach that, you need that dog in you to work with. He's got that fire, similar to Coach Nottage, but I think Coach Nottage, like, a younger Coach Nottage in that sense. He's not afraid to really get into, and that is something I love. I don't really like sort of the modern wave of coaching where, everything's all good. It's all like, good job, but better luck next time. I don't really like that stuff. I want someone to rip into me when I've done a mistake. And like, when I get ripped into and, sort of not attacked, but like, barked at, it sort of, ignites a fire. It makes you want to go more. And it holds you accountable. Like, and Will definitely held me accountable for my actions on and off the court. Whether it be, missing a box out, or, being lazy on defense. Like, he would always rip into me, and I loved it. At the end of the day, it got me a lot better. Even like the individual sessions I had with him, the workouts, he holds a high standard of you, that you may not even see in yourself. And that sort of helped me raise my game and raise my own standard for how I should play. And similar with Jacob, just coming off working with the Hawks. He's someone who, it's a bit of a mix of both. Like, he had great skill development I had with him, definitely like helping me with my jump shot to get it where I was at today. But he was also someone who wasn't afraid to rip into someone, but in a humorous way. Like, he'd have funny digs at you. Like, I've definitely had some memorable moments with him, and winning state championship final by 76 points under him was definitely one of them. But yeah, I've honestly, like, he was someone who showed me a different structure of the game. Obviously, like you said, with Coach Nottage, he had that particular structure, but it was going to happen, but you couldn't really guard it. Will had sort of similar to what Coach did, Coach Nottage did through, he worked with Coach. But Jacob was someone who ran a completely different offense, and I've only really known that sort of that Newington motion, that sort of that base structure. That's all I really knew up until 18s when I was with him, and him running more of a dribble drive sort of offense and a different type of motion. That was new to me, and he expanded sort of, the game. I'd always guarded against, similar things, whether it be a flow or whatever, but to go up, to actually run something, opened my eyes and actually helped me with my IQ and see the game from a different perspective.
Nice.
Yeah. I was going to ask both of you, you mentioned, Marquis, that it's a dog-eat-dogs world pretty much in JUCO. And for you, Angus, as well, how do you kind of juggle or balance that I have to get mine. I have to show that I'm that dude. And at the same time, as a team, we still need to win this game.
Well,
Go ahead, guess you answer first.
well, that's that's the trick, isn't it? So, in my experience, that balance, like I've played against those balances. The balance myself, like on my teams, it didn't really happen. It happened in, bits and pieces. We had some games where, people were getting their own, but at the same time we were winning. But most of the time, it was a bit tricky. Like my focus wasn't really on, getting my own, but it was making the most of my own, like the opportunities I got. I like to be efficient and stay highly efficient. I might not shoot as many shots in a game as some of the other people on my team, but I score the same amount with a lot better efficiency. That's something I know coaches will look for. But yeah, it was a bit tricky. I wish I knew the answer to that. For my team this year, we could have, it could have been really good.
Oh man, that's so funny because my playing experience was similar to yours. Like I said, where my team, we started with 27 people players at the start of the season, and then by the end of the season, we had like 8 players. So, those type of seasons, like I said, are not the standard of, but again, but to find that balance, for me, I really had to understand, like, because the conference that we played in was really strong. So, the Indian Hills, the Iowa Westerns, and Southeastern, like, those are like all their programs are really successful. Everyone on their team is going D1. So, like, the guards that I personally matched up with, like, I knew they were going to go high major. So my focus was I just have to beat the dude that's in front of me, like, literally. Like, if I can outplay the guy that's in front of me who has, like I said, he's getting recruited, he's already got a name, he's already going to go to a D1. If I can outplay this dude, then, like, that's how I'm going to get recognized. So that's kind of where my perch was. And similar to yours, where it's like, I'm still going to play the game the right way, like, no matter what. So I'm going to, like, even if I score a high volume of points, I'm still going to shoot a good percentage because I'm making the right reads. And I think, to your point, like I said, playing the right way, like, high-level coaches are always going to recognize that. So that was my goal, is to beat the guy that was right in front of me. But yeah, and do it more efficient than he could. But it was interesting because once I got to Montana State, my teammate Will Bynum there, like, we came in together, and he came from a JUCO, and he told me about their philosophy was, if we all make it to Hutch, which that's where the national championship is for junior college, he's like, then we're all going to get an opportunity to get seen. So, that was something that they came in, like, before the season, they kind of had this kind of camaraderie as a team that it was like, the further we get as a team, the more recognition and the more chances that we're going to have. And, so that's the ideal world. But again, in that kind of dog eat dogs environment, like, you have to be able to hold your own at the end of the day because, that's what it's going to take to get out of there.
It sounds like it's really important to find what you're good at and what you can maximize and stay in that lane. I mean, to me, it sounds kind of like the players that can't figure that out are the ones that kind of get washed out because they're either doing too much or you're not doing enough. But that's interesting.
Yeah. And and I think that's, again, like, for you, Gus, like, saying, like, even how it was for you in Australia, like, going for Coach Rex, who's very structured, going to playing for Jacob, where now you kind of play, like, free-flowing, a little bit, like, more free-flowing. And in a sense, like you said, like, that's kind of the struggle for the Australian players, not that kind of being in-betweener, So it seemed like you went through that transition, like going like from Coach Rex to Coach Jacob, but then also having that transition from going from Australia to US, now like really like identifying who you are as a player and like really maximizing like your strengths.
Well, you're not wrong there. Like going from Coach Nottage to Jacob, and like because I had them both at sort of that, from Newington in the summer months in Australia, then Jacob in the winter. It like opened my eyes a bit, and it actually helped me even back home when I was playing for school as well. But that transition, like that first year, I was really, honestly, I was confused at how to go about, like, when to get my own, because with, my school offense, it was also structured that I knew what shots I could get, where I could get them. Like in Jacob's offense, it was completely different. I had to really, that's where your basketball brain comes out. You have to look at people's like footwork and which way their body weight's leaning against, see if you want to get to the rim and all that sort of stuff, or like what shots to take. That definitely helped me when I came to the US. But at the same time, I was still in that beginning phase. I was a little bit more passive. I'd rather, I could get my own here, but if I go here and pitch to like pass the ball over there, they're going to be more open. So in the beginning, I wasn't like, I was making the right reads, but I wasn't getting my own in the beginning. But definitely as the season progressed, and this year especially, like playing in Australia, like, those structures back home have helped me so much. Like, even this year, like especially learning all the different spots and reads. Like one thing I love to do now is I'll look at our playbook, memorize every single spot. So if I know wherever I go, I know where this person is, the read's going to be here, like pass the ball in the corner. If I go this way, because the defender will most likely come over. I always like to create fake scenarios when I'm reading plays. Just like, how can I get a look off, and who's going to be open if I do this, or if this person does this, I'll be open here, not here. Just like I love like picking apart, and that's helped a lot for college, both in the understanding how people play freely and what reads can come of it, and also it relates back to the structure. So it's something that's really helped me, and it's sort of like it's increased my love for the game, seeing this side of things. I love the IQ and the aspect of like the coaching aspect, and just understanding. That's something that I really do enjoy, and like one day I do want to be a coach. Like I'd love to coach at a high level, later on after I finish playing. That is something like I love the sport. I'm passionate about it, but yeah.
That's incredible. Just from the student side, does that help, that analytical mind and that wanting to break things down and see the different angles? Does that help you with the whole student athlete aspect of playing ball?
I'd say yeah. For classes and stuff, it's like there's times where you're not going to want to do it or whatever, but you got to get it done because it's going to help you for basketball and for the sport. So like, and understanding the game and like studying, it does build habits that translate to the classroom as well. But yeah, the analytical and understanding each role and the X's and O's, it translates a lot to the games. Like you can see, in my opinion, the greatest player with the best IQ, like either LeBron or Rajon Rondo, the way they play the game, see the floor. It's not just natural. It's a lot of it's to do with natural instinct, but they study it. They study the plays. They study the opposition. They understand what everyone does and what everyone's strengths and weaknesses are. when you pass the ball to them for a catch and shoot shot, do they prefer it below their waist or above their waist or on their waist? Do they prefer catching to the right a bit? Just like knowing the little nuances of each individual, like it helps me. Like, I can't say enough. It's definitely something that if more people would do, their games would jump astronomically. Just being able, because you'll be able to get your own better. You'll be able to set your teammates up better. You'll be able to even defend better, knowing strengths and weaknesses more in depth than just like the basic scout sheet says. Like it helps in every way, both on the court and off the court. And it translates to every way in the classroom. Even, I guess, if you're stuck at a spreadsheet at work or something, I bet having this, the habits you build here will translate anywhere in life.
The details, focusing on the details. And like you say, it's like how you do one thing is how you do everything. So like if you don't, like when basketball, so like the studying that goes into, preparing for a game is the same as in the classroom preparing for a test. Like you got to take the notes, you got to go home and read the notes. Like it's not enough just to show up and just take the test. And I know those, like you said, those habits are going to make you a great coach when you're coaching. But like right now, using all of that knowledge to help you get an edge as a player, because I think that a lot of players kind of miss that part of the game. Like it's all about, the physical, just going on the court, but the mental part of the game and seeing the game and being able to read it from a coach's point of view, as you said, like you as a young high school kid, like going to Coach Rex's office at lunchtime just to go watch film when not most kids, but most kids are not going to do that. They're not going to go find their coach to go get more film, and to study the game. And I think, that's a quote unquote secret, like I said, all you got to do is like really study the game the way that you would study for, like in school. And I think that's definitely a separator.
100%.
Thanks again for listening to Game Within a Game. This podcast is sponsored by Marquis Basketball. Visit Marquis Basketball on Instagram at Marquis Basketball or call 760-213-4936. If you're a basketball player that wants to improve your game and take it to the next level, or a parent seeking to have your child learn the game the right way, Marquis Basketball is the place to be, the place to grow, the place where basketball dreams become a reality. Message Marquis on Instagram at Marquis Basketball or call Marquis at 760-213-4936. Marquis Basketball, coaching and training for the next generation. Thanks again for tuning in to Game Within a Game podcast. Yeah, my fault, man. I thought I could talk to you afterwards, but we're good to go.
Crazy.
I wanted to ask you, though, there's an interesting dynamic, as Marquis mentioned, in the States, basketball, obviously, you come out the womb, you probably hear a ball bouncing. Everybody's playing ball, from people that don't even know anything about basketball just because it's fun, but it's just there. It's what Americans do for fun. It's what we watch. But in other countries, in Australia, you got rugby. You know what I'm saying? It's huge. It's a part of the culture. I'm pretty sure you grow up and that's all you hear about. So my question is, like, how did basketball stand out so much and be so attractive to you as something to pursue, especially in a place where rugby is so engulfed into the culture?
So I definitely contributed a lot to my mum. Like growing up, I played a range of sports, like, rugby, Aussie rules football, AFL. That's definitely a massive one that a lot of kids play as well. Even little things like I did gymnastics and like trying to swim competitively growing up, like a bunch of different things. But my mum one thing that stuck out to me is she always played like socially, whether when she was younger on a Wednesday or Monday night. I remember being dragged out to her games, half an hour away from home, standing there watching, running up and down on the sidelines as a 5-6-year-old running amok. I definitely remember that. And I saw how much fun she was having later on, and it made me want to do it more. So just playing around, doing your learn the plays or whatever. I loved it. I love basketball. It was definitely my favorite. Growing up, playing the other sports, it was fun, but I was all right at them, but I knew basketball was something I was a little bit better at as well. And younger me wasn't really the most humble. So I loved, if I was good at something, I loved to tell everyone about it. So I loved to tell everyone about, basketball, and I loved playing it because I could tell everyone about it even more. I loved being good at something, or at that age. And I gained a passion really through my mum. And she's also someone who really taught me humility, smacked it into me a little bit. I mainly contribute my love for the sport coming from my mum, seeing her play it a lot and her introducing it to me. That was definitely something I contribute that to.
That's what's up, man. That's cool. And that kind of shows and kind of gives into why you're more in love with the details of the game. Because anybody that falls in love with any sport or craft, or whether it be martial arts or actual team sport, that love usually comes at a young age. And it's usually seeing somebody that they love enjoying it. So that's awesome to hear, man. That's real awesome. Are you looked at as an outlier in Australia playing ball like that, or being so dedicated to it? 'Cause I know in America, like, if you're a black tall dude in America and you're playing something other than basketball or football, they're like, yo, what are you doing? So it's like, did you play that? How do you do that? And it's kind of like I can't do that type of mindset. I'm supposed to do this type of thing. But in Australia, is there that kind of outlier mentality of, if you're not playing rugby, if you're not playing soccer or football, are you looked at, considered different, or trying to be different, or trying to do more than the average person?
I feel like if you asked that question 15, 20 years ago, I could say yes, but now probably not. Basketball is Australia's fastest growing sport, alongside different women's sports, but basketball is its growth rate's astronomical. Growing up, like, I went to the school to play school basketball consistently, like you guys do in the States. You have to go to a private school. So they're the only places where they have weekly competitions for sports. So when I went there, most of the parents and coaches were asking me if I played rugby, or if I rowed even, or played cricket, just because of the size. Like, they weren't really expecting basketball. But that's just, rich old white people with rich old white people sports. So that's sort of like that's the only real time I ever felt that. Or, walking around in public and some old grandpa asked me if I played another sport. But most of the time, people usually associate height now with mainly basketball, especially its popularity. The professional leagues in Australia are growing. Both the NBL and the second division, NBL 1, that was introduced a couple of years back. The sport's just it's continuing to rise, and with talent in the NBA like Dyson Daniels, Josh Giddey, Josh Green, and all hailing from different areas of Australia. There's role models to have now. Before, when I was growing up, you could only really look at Andrew Bogut or, Luke Longley in the 90s. So there was no real big sort of Australian idol that you could have for the sport. Now, there's so many role models to have. The grassroots basketball is it's growing. It's everywhere. It's not just like these clubs that we have in Australia. There's now different people running learn to play and different competitions. So everything's just growing. Even like the 24/7 labs, like the hoops labs where you get they're starting to come in Australia. There's a few of them now. So even that, like, it's coming to the expectation. If you're tall, you hoop. That's sort of the big thing, regardless of race or like, or sex. Like, it's all, if you're boy, girl, white, black, Asian, you hoop. That's sort of the thing in Australia now. It's really changed from what it used to be.
No, 100%. Like, I actually saw that, like, that same growth process as well as living over there for the past decade. When I first got over there, I couldn't even figure out like when the NBL games were on, like I was like, when did the pro teams play? And it was always on a weird time. And then as you see now, like I said, it's considered like the second or, third, like top league in the world, as far as pro basketball. And as you said, like the line of Australian role models in the basketball world has grown through that time. I remember, that finals run where Cleveland going against the Warriors and Delhi's on the team, and everyone, all the kids down in Tasmania were going crazy because they're like, man, I want to be like Delhi. I want to be like Dellavedova. And then obviously the Patty Mills, the Dante Exons, the Joe Ingles, Thor Makers, like there's like so many players that that are, like I said, just role models now that kids are actually being able to look up to. So yeah, what do you see like the current Australia? Like, how do you feel like, as far as the pathways now, like you said, like kids, like you wanting to come to America because you saw it appealing, but now that you see that the pro leagues are there's more opportunities as far as pathways in Australia, like as far as staying homegrown. So how do you think that's going to change like the landscape, like for this next 5 to 10 years, as far as, do you think that there's going to be a continual increase of kids wanting to come over, or would they more likely want to stay home and stay in the homegrown?
That's a good question. I think you'll see like a pretty similar mix as what there is now. So one thing that there's a big stigma in Australia with state teams. So for the viewers, there's like a big selection that every state does for each age group. So under 16s, 18s, and then under 20s. They pick really the top 10, 20 players in each state and have a couple teams, and then they all play off at a nationals, like not associated with any club or any high school. It's all based on just representing your state. So there's a big stigma around state teams, and a lot of people in Australia, rising hoopers get upset about that, thinking that the state team pathway is the best pathway to get to America or, play NBL 1, that second division pro league, to help get you to, the NBL or playing Division 1, 2 hoops, whatever it may be. But one thing I can say for certain is, in the end, it does not matter. Like in Australia, as long as you work hard, understand the game, and get good film, you can go most places. So one person who I respect with everything I have for his journey is Deontay Williams, who I'm sure you know. He was someone who grew up alongside with me, went from not playing at all, even at the club level, never made a state team, grinded out at high school and switching clubs. He was someone who went from the bottom of the pile in basketball in New South Wales, in my state, to committing to Sacramento State through the JUCO system just with pure hard work. And he got his film in high school, and playing a bit of, club basketball, put it together, trusted the JUCO system, and now he's committed to a mid-major D1. So there's many pathways for that. As in terms of staying in Australia, I feel like some people would, especially with NBL1 increasing at the rate it is, and with more money being funded into both the NBL and NBL1. There's more opportunities for people to start making money at a younger age. Well, I do respect that. I do think the majority of guys won't be at that level. You'll have your outliers who go straight into NBL and NBL1. But I feel like the majority will still attempt to come to the US. But I can't stress enough, there's so many pathways to get here. Like someone like me, I've played in all the state teams from 16s to 20s, had a good high school career. And with COVID especially, I'm at a JUCO, but at the same time, I wouldn't trade it for anything else. Like it's an experience of a lifetime, and it teaches you skills for later on in life. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with who stays and who goes to the US. I guess I don't really have a definitive answer, but it's going to definitely be different.
That's interesting. And your relationship with Coach Marquis and Coach Marquis, your relationship with Angus. Just start with Marquis. By coaching him and seeing him, what did you see? What was different about him? I know we talked about the last player we talked to, and you kind of pointed out what made him stand out, what were his strengths and weaknesses, et cetera, and just pretty much all around what made you think he was a great player and was going to have a long career. But with Angus Marquis, from coaching him, few things that you learned, few things that you saw in him, and what makes him different from other players.
Again, when I first met Angus, like I said, I was his assistant coach when he was like on his under 16 team, and that team was a really talented young team. It had some of the kind of best 15-year-olds around, and Angus was the bottom age, which means you were like 14, right? 13 or so.
Yeah, 13 turning 14, yeah.
And like I said, he was a big kid. But again, it was just his kind of those spurts that he said, like he had certain spurts where he just went out and he just dominated. And that was just straight, like competitive spirit. Like I can see the competitive spirit and the competitive drive that he had in those spurts. But also with that, like it was being a student of the game. And, as you say, like most young kids, when they come into, like when they're 14, 12, 13, they come into practice, they just show up at practice times. And I don't know if you remember, but I remember you coming and you asking me like, Coach, like, can you come into the gym with me? Like, can we come in 30 minutes before practice? And we would start doing, what I call vitamin sessions, which like, practice started at, I think 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whatever, but we'll show up 30 minutes before and we just do 15 to 20 minutes of work just before practice. And that's when I was like, oh, I think this kid has a chance because like, this is pro mentality, even at a young age where it's like, I'm coming in, I'm trying to get better and having that understanding between, practice is when you work on the team stuff, but I still have to get myself as an individual ready, like before practice. So the fact that he showed me that he wanted to get better as a player before practice as a young player and just seeing those spurts. From there, watching him go through Newington College, he said, like as a young freshman, and I knew Coach Rex was like a great coach, but old school coach where you were going to be held accountable, you're going to be coached hard, but you're also going to be able to play the game the right way. And I saw his development to where, like Rex really focused on, like I said, all the details off the ball. And as a young player, in a sense, it was almost like the equivalent of like you seeing like a Kawhi Leonard or the equivalent of like a Jimmy Butler at the NBA level, where, the first year of playing in this program, you only had a limited role, but then the next year you get more role and seeing you just develop over that time, like I think you played every single, like, just as scouting against you and just watching you, like, when you were in high school, because I actually coached against you when you were in high school, so like watching you on film is like, this kid knows how to play every position, and he knows how to do everything on the court. And at the end of the day, it really came down like he's going to do all the things that contributes to winning. Like I said, like some players are really like focused on their own individual stats. And I think his, just his winning attitude, I saw that being displayed, trying to coach against him. There's times where we thought we had him figured out, and then again, he just makes a big shot, or he just gets a rebound. And again, all the timely plays, all the high basketball IQ as well. Like, yeah, that now I'm actually getting PTSD. like at first I was proud of him because I was coaching him, but then when you have to coach against him, you're like, man, this kid is getting on my nerves. But
yeah,
again,
I remember that one time we played you guys at your place and you almost had us. And then I think I did a hezzy on Ubes and hit that floater off the backboard on the free throw line to put us up 2 with like 30 seconds left. I do remember, I can attribute to that. And I was just something that popped into my head.
But yeah, like I said, so then again, like it comes to the point to where, like I said, I've actually watched you grow from like a 13-year-old all the way to like an 18-year-old kid, like in that span. And then now you finish playing, like you graduated from high school, and at the time you started playing with the NBL1 team, which, I was playing on. And again, I'm just like, wow, it's crazy. Like I was coaching against this kid and now he's playing at the same level as me. And that's when we kind of got into the conversation of you wanting to go to America, you needing like, just advice on how to get over here. And, me going to Marshalltown, I'm like, yeah, I know people at the junior college level, and just kind of pre-warning you, like, yeah, the junior college level is a dog eat dogs. But I knew at that time when I was that you would be successful, like coming over here, because again, all of the habits that you showed, like just watching you, like I knew you would be able to come over here and deal with the growing pains and just really figuring it out. I knew you had the resilience. I knew you had the basketball IQ, for one. I knew you were going to be able to play the game the right way and, again, contribute to winning. And I know at the college level, it doesn't matter what division, if it's JUCO, Division 1, 2, 3, like players, like coaches are looking for winners, and anyone that's going to contribute to winning. So, that's what I see as like Angus as a player. Like he's always going to be able to contribute to winning. So yeah, any like just any coaches right now listening to this guy can help your program. This guy can come in and contribute and help your program.
Appreciate it. One thing I definitely learned from you, that's, like you said before, the vitamin sessions. Like, I remember I hadn't really done much of that sort of stuff before, but individual workouts have always been something that's been structured, a part of, a set time, away from team workout. So one thing I definitely learned from you is when you were coaching me is, what is required of you to make a leap. So definitely, like, there's a difference at playing at, the club level to the state level to, NBL 1 and in college and whatnot. So just playing under you there, and having you, show me little things, whether it's working on different post moves or footwork to get past someone on the perimeter, or working on your inside pivot foot for a jump shot or whatever it may be. Like those workouts before team practice, that I learned a lot from you from there. Definitely what is required of you to get better. And I don't think a lot of people just think going to team practice, once or twice a week in Australia, and then, getting some shots up here and there is good enough. It's really not. Like if you want to make that leap and you want to be a better player, you have to really find a way to get proper individual workouts in, honing in on specific needs and specific skills that you're weak at or you need to get better on. And that's something I definitely did with you, even for as little as, 20 minutes before practice. Like it accumulates and it builds up. And that's something I've kept going to this day. Just whether a coach is there or not, just have a routine that you go through, or, if I had a game where I missed 2 left hooks, I'd spend 10 minutes on making, left hooks from different spots on the floor, from different footwork. Something as little as that, it's honed in and it's drilled into my brain. That's the minimum you need to do to really get better. And I attribute a lot of that to you.
Got to get those vitamins.
Yeah. Oh, it's time for GWAG Tip of the Week with former pro basketball player, now trainer and coach, Marquis Navarre. Now, some tips, they're for the game. And some tips, they're for the game within the game. Yet all tips seek to adjust that mind frame. So let's get it. GWAG Tip of the Week. GWAG.
All right, for this tip of the week, for all my players out there, I really want you to create yourself a vitamin pack. And again, our vitamins is what workout we're going to do for our individual selves right before our team workout, or right before playing pickup, or right before doing an open gym session, or right before team practice or after team practice. Now, again, your vitamins, needs to be like a 15-minute workout where you're working on your individual skills that are going to help you. So the way that you create your vitamin pack, you look at the offense, you look at your position, and you see what are the concepts I'm going to run. And out of those concepts, you need to pick anywhere between 5 to 6 moves that you're going to work on. All right, so for example, for my point guards, you could work on a pick and roll for your vitamin package before practice. Pick 5 pick and roll reads that you're going to do. Turn in the corner, rejecting the screen, snaking it all the way to the rim, snaking to the mid-range, come off in the pull-up, stop and pop behind the screen. Now, with those 6 options I just listed, but if you have 5 options, you're just going to set the clock for 5 minutes, and you're going to work on each one of those moves for a minute straight. So I'm going 1 minute of turning the corner, 1 minute of snaking the on balls, 1 minute of rejecting the screen, 1 minute pull-ups, 1 minute of stopping and pop. Now, from there, I'm going to take a minute to shoot free throws in between. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side of the court. So within that time, again, if you consistently do these vitamins, consistently over a long period of time, these 15 minutes are going to add up and really separate yourself from the rest of your team. And also is going to just help you get ready for those game shots.
Great advice from great coaching. For both of you, dealing with so many coaches from great and, I don't know, in terms of your opinion, maybe not so great, depending on who you were dealing with, but you both have experience with a variety of different coaches. And for the players out there listening, the students, those aspiring to be great, what is some advice you can give for those kind of for micro kind of relationships with each coach? And how do you guys handle those in order to kind of meet your macro goal of obviously being a great player?
Go ahead. Well, I'll always, like you say, like the most important part of like any development in any relationship is the relationship itself. So, as a coach, from a coach's point of view, to kind of like you actually care about your player success and their growth. One of my things is like every player has a sign on their head that says, I'm the most important person in the room. And the tricky part as a coach is like really giving that individual that type of attention and that type of when you have a whole group. But and it's not easy to really like do that all the time. But again, you got to actually have the player's success and the player's growth at the forefront of your development. It can't be, as a coach, you can't go up in there having your own individual success be the goal. Like the more that you grow your players and the better that you develop the players, that's how you're going to be successful as a coach. But yeah, that's my advice. So every coach, I advise like every practice, make sure you make a connection with your player on a human level, like outside of like the game, because you're going to spend so much time like doing the X's and O's, doing the holding accountable and stuff like that. But if you don't connect with the person, then you all this information, all of your knowledge, all that you're actually going to pour into that person is probably they're not going to absorb it as well. So I think one of the keys is to a coach is to really like show the player that you care for them as a person, and then, the development like grows better.
Yeah. And from my perspective, to touch on what the player, one of the biggest things, regardless of whether you agree with the coach or not, or if you like them or you don't, the biggest thing is you always have to be coachable. So being coachable, regardless, doing what the coach needs of you is you're always going to find yourself on the court and giving yourself more opportunities. So there's been times I've, D-League, I've had, I was lucky enough to have Will for some of them, but some of the other coaches I had weren't. So no matter what I thought of what he was trying to do or what he was saying, I always just gave it my best shot to do what he wanted me to do. Being coachable at the end of the day will get you far, because you're showing that regardless of what you think, you respect and you're listening to the coaches. And that's very important. To build relationships, just to touch on what you said, one of the biggest things I found that works to connect from both player, coach, and a human level is having some type of bonding activity for players and have the coaches involved. One of my favorite teams I've been on was last year's Comets Youth League team when I came home after my freshman year, just because we went out and, went to a wing, all you can eat wings bar, and had a lot of different chicken wings and some drinks, like something as small as that. Like it doesn't really, you might not think much of it, but it builds and relationships both from players and coaches. And you just, it makes you want to run harder for the next guy, dive in the ball for your coaches more, take a charge for this guy, sprint over to pick him up off the ground when he's fallen over. It makes you want to do all those things so much more. So just at the end of the day, like for me, bonding and being coachable are two things that you will find yourself putting yourself in a better position, like getting along with both your teammates and coaches better and finding yourself on the court more.
Nice. Great tips. Appreciate that. Any closing comments for the audience? Episode 14 is a great conversation, but any closing arguments from you, Marquis or Angus, as we close out the show?
As I said, like starting from that young kid, like, you know, watching your mom play social comp, you know, everyone in the community thinking you're a rugby player, but you're like, I'm a basketball player. You know, you have a great career in Australia. You know, as a youth player, you come make the transition to come to US. You join this dog eat dog world in the JUCO level, and you survive it. Like I said, being first team or second team all conference, probably should have been first team. But again, what would be the biggest, you know, what would be one of the biggest lessons you think you've taken away from this past season that you think is going to help you go forward?
Have the confidence that you can kill anyone on the court. That was something that I sort of got this year. Confidence is the most underrated aspect of basketball. Like I know there's times where it can be mistaken for arrogance on the court, but having the self-belief, the self-confidence, like don't doubt yourself. The way I look back at my freshman year, I feel a bit, you know, disgusted that I would let myself be intimidated that much. Like it's something that JUCO and my journey through life and through basketball so far has taught me that you need confidence, and especially over this last year, like I now have the confidence. Like there's some guys I look at who are playing in March Madness right now, and it's like, what's the difference between me and him? Like I know some of these guys I can go on the court and I can definitely take and like make an impact. Like, you know, confidence. It's one of the most important and underrated things in hoops in general, and it's definitely the biggest takeaway. Yeah, I've got my confidence. I know I can hold my own with anyone. I'm no longer intimidated by who may be. Only exception, maybe like a Zach Edey or you know, going up against Dwight Howard or LeBron. Maybe that would be a bit different.
Yeah.
But for the majority of guys, no, I know I can definitely hold my own.
Yeah, I think, as you said, like confidence is one of the most important things. And even as a coach, I think that's where I get asked, like one of the most commonly asked questions is like, how do I improve my confidence? And I always see, yeah, the confidence is the make or break of a player's success. And so, yeah, what did you do to develop that confidence in this year, just from like last year to this year? What were the things that you did to actually like improve on your confidence? What practical things could you share with, you know, other players who are going through that same part of their process?
Definitely getting in the lab more, stay in the gym. Like when you're in the gym more, you're getting the repetitions up, you see your shot falling more. Or if you're in the weight room and you're lifting more, you're seeing you can jump high, you're moving faster. That alone will build your confidence. You'll have more, you'll believe more in your shot, you'll believe more in your athleticism, your foot speed, like your ability, you know, to jump up, get a rebound, or like, you know, smack someone on the backboard or something like that. Just you'll notice yourself improve, and in turn, your confidence will improve. That is the biggest thing. And even like, you know, playing pickup here and there isn't so bad for your confidence. Going out there, so if you try out some moves, if you go and do something and, you know, hit a tough shot or go up and dunk on someone, that's obviously your confidence is gonna feel at an all-time high. So doing things that to make you better, like the when you work on your game, the physical aspect, you will see that both the mental aspect and the confidence will grow. You will definitely get better from that.
Much love, man. Appreciate you. I would throw that outro in there so y'all can go ahead and say goodbye. Because if I put that outro on and mute you again, I think you're going to get confused. But I appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot. I know it's probably a little rough getting used to talking on here and stuff like that, but we're getting it going, man. Only episode 14 in. Hopefully have you on again.
It's been real fun. Like, it's been really good to have a talk. I haven't caught up with Case like this and picked the game like this in a long time. So
yeah, man.
Yeah, we'll get that whiteboard out and stuff next time. Once we get a hang of all this live stuff and then really get it in, especially as all you guys, all the players, just not just you, but all the players that he knows, he coached and worked with. As you guys get further in your careers, I think those conversations are going to be quite impactful.
Yeah, for real. Like I said, right now we're building up the archive files as we're going now, and people again are going to be able to look back and see, damn, like Angus now he's here now, you know. But yeah, man, I actually we didn't really talk much about it, but again, right now, being in that stage right now of going from like trying to make going from the next stage from JUCO now, trying to go D1, D2. And I remember for me when I was in that position, like, it was like, again, it was uncharted territories. It was just the unknown, not knowing what was going to happen. And like, I did go on like 2 recruiting trips. Like, I went to University of Idaho, and then I went to my Montana State visit. And I remember thinking during that time that I was going to go on 5 visits, because you were allowed to get like 5 visit total. So, but once I came back for my second visit, I was just kind of like, hey, make your decision, because, you know, there's not many options out there. You got to really you got to know when to decide. I think that's the biggest time. Like, sometimes you're trying to figure out, oh, I'm trying to go bigger, better, or I'm trying to but there's really like a window where it's like, that's your opportunity, and that's the one that you got to take. And then, so eventually I end up, you know, going in that second visit and then signing, and then kind of really feeling like that relief off my shoulders. Like, wow, I finally ticked that box. And yeah, I just wanted to know, like, you know, like I said, like for you, what are you doing right now to kind of like in this process to kind of put yourself out there, and kind of what kind of feedback and responses are coming in, you know, how are you managing that?
So at the moment, I'm in the period where obviously some, like, my coaches are helping me move on, but I'm also sending out a lot of emails. So I'm reaching out to some schools that I think I'd be a good fit for. And I feel like I would like fit their structure and their program. Like, I at the moment, like, I'm watching a lot of film on different places, you know. When it comes to talking to schools, like right now I'm in the stage where, you know, some schools are reaching out, and like, you know, I am talking to some. We, you know, a lot of the time try and organize a time for a phone call. It hasn't happened. Or I have had a couple phone calls at the moment. There's a few schools I've talked to over the phone, but it's still murky waters for it right now. Like, I know because of the transfer portal, it's going to be for those, you know, some of those Division 1 schools, I probably won't hear from them from a while, because it doesn't end until May the 1st. That's when it closes. So that's when they really know who's going to be in there. So I'm just staying patient. I know likely I probably won't sign until I'm back home in Australia. I know that's just the likelihood of it. It'll be interesting to see. I hope I have something on paper before I come back, or so I can come back rather.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just Yeah, I am hoping, I am hopeful, but I doubt it. I think it's going to be a drawn out process. I really think during the summer, end of spring, summer, something will happen. But until then, I'm just trying to make the most of what I got. So any schools I'm talking to, just like for some like I probably would commit if they did offer me some of the like some really good Division 2 programs that I do really like the look of. So yeah, that's sort of where I'm at for recruiting.
Yeah. As it says, the game within the game, man. You just gotta walk blindly with the faith, and continue to just take care of what's in front of you, like day by day. And then again, like I said, eventually it's gonna happen. So I definitely feel confident that it will happen for you as well. And next time we have you on this show, we'll definitely be giving people the update on where you're at now.
Yeah, I hope so. That'll be great.
Yeah. But yeah, man, good chatting with you, and we'll catch up. We'll catch up again soon.
All right, likewise, it's been great to have a chat with you.
All right, Angus, we'll holla at you.
All right, too easy.
All right, peace.
Thanks again for tuning in to Game Within a Game podcast. Be sure to click, comment, subscribe, and share at Game Within a Game podcast on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. Game Within a Game podcast. Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. Click, comment, subscribe, and share. Game Within a Game with the one and only Marquis Navarre. Thanks for listening.